Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the weekly Mormon News Roundup. I am your humble host, Steve Ace. That is Talent on Loan from Love. It's August 31st, 2025, episode 175. I'm coming to you from the crossroads of the East where the truth runs free. We will be ruminating on the great and spacious beehive today. To you from the crossroads of the East, where the welcome my fabulous co-host, Brittany. Brittany, how's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
It's great to see you. Now, who are you and what are you all about?
I wrote it down. Let me go over it. So I'm Brittany. Thanks for having me. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, and I was a rule-following convert for over a decade until my shelf broke, and then I left Mormonism, but I couldn't leave Mormonism alone. Now I make content on TikTok and YouTube about my life and my journey out of the church. I make satire, storytelling, and a little bit of Sunday school cosplay, all to get people thinking critically, laughing a little, and maybe feeling a little less alone in their faith journey. I'm excited to dive in with you tonight.
Well, that sounds absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining the program. And this is what we have on top. What are we going to be covering today? What are some of the topics that are on deck here, Brittany?
Well, we've got some Mormon apologist apologizes to go over, temple updates, church tithing lawsuit dies. We're going to go over that. The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives season 3 teaser is coming on, and more.
Yeah, we do have a big episode now. 2 episodes ago, just to bring you up to speed here, Jasmine Rappley, my favorite shill for the Mormon Church, got her hand caught in the cookie jar when she repeated some Mormon Church talking points about how the church generally does not require bishops or stake presidents who people confess child abuse to those bishops or stake presidents. They don't require them to report to law enforcement. She made a TikTok about that. It got a huge amount of backlash. Now, we're not going to replay Jasmine's original her original gaffe here, but she has now made an apology regarding her previous video. Let's play this and get your reaction straight away to how the church responds to handling SA, and let me know, Brittany, if you think that this is a good apology.
I recently posted about how the church handles SA based on a recent conference I attended, and I tried to describe the church's approach to SA in my post, and I received a lot of feedback. I apologize if I haven't gotten to all of your messages. I've been out of town, off grid, and I have been having meaningful conversations with people behind the scenes. The truth is, I could have worded things more carefully as I was trying to communicate what I learned from a victim of SA at the fair conference, and I think my messaging led to some misunderstanding. I acknowledge that a lot of people have been deeply hurt by this issue, and that makes me very sad. It was heartbreaking to read of so many tragic stories of people's own SA experiences, and I am so sorry for the hurt and the pain you've gone through. So let me try to clarify. Of course, SA should be reported. The church urges all members to report SA to the civil authorities in the handbook and their training materials. The church itself reports hundreds of cases of abuse every year. I am sorry if I did not communicate that clearly. I'd like to try and clarify and explain a little bit more of my intent, because my intent was not to prevent reporting. From what I've been able to understand, allowing people who are scared or unsure of what to do, allowing them to talk to their clergy confidentially, has a protective effect on children, which is why most states, both red states and blue states, preserve clergy penitent privilege. Some people who would not talk to anyone else about SA will talk to their clergy if they understand they can do so confidentially. It's better that someone knows than no one knows. People who talk to their bishop in confidence will often consent to a report being made once the clergy can explain how important that step is, and other protective measures can also be put in place quickly. Not every case has been handled the way it should, and I'm so sorry for those who have been hurt. But from what I can see, I do believe the church is operating in good faith, that they are doing what they do to try to protect as many children as possible. But because this is so sensitive and we're limited by this format, to understand the reasons why clergy can serve a uniquely protective role, I would encourage you to watch the full presentation of Randy Austin and Carrie Nielsen at the Fair Conference. You can go to their website where you can still buy access to streaming, and hopefully they're going to get it on their YouTube channel soon. I would also recommend this podcast episode with SA survivor and therapist Jennifer Roach on how the church's approach seeks to protect children.
Well. Okay, so let's get your reaction on this, Brittany. That was a Jasmine apology. How do you feel about it? How did she do?
Oh, I don't know about that. That wasn't really an apology. I think she said, I'm sorry for the hurt and pain you've gone through, but it wasn't an apology about what she did. Or I watched what she put out there. She took the video down now, so you can't really compare and contrast, but no, it doesn't do justice to what she said before.
Now, if you want to see the full video, if you go back to our last episode of the Mormon News Roundup, you will be able to see it there. We talked about it a great deal, where she said, well, we just do whatever the Mormon church lawyers tell us to do. And that's what Jesus wants us all to do, is just follow these lawyers' advice. That caused a great deal of consternation out there, especially from people who were victims of abuse themselves or survivors of domestic violence, things like that. It was in very, very poor taste. Now, with regards to her apology here, I would say it is better than nothing, but still a long way to go. I am not satisfied by Jasmine. I'd like to welcome those people in the live chat who are out there real quick. Howie, it is great to see you. Scab, thanks so much for dropping by. Alan, it is also nice to see you. Now, we have, Brittany, a couple of other people weighed in on this. Let's get a couple more reactions here from a couple of other folks out here, including the Tomsters out there. He also has a very popular TikTok account, and you can find a compilation of his videos right here on the Mormon News Roundup here. He's going to talk about Jasmine and whether he thinks that her apology was any good. Let's check out the Tomsters.
Love his shirt.
The apologist who made that video being like, oh, we should keep protecting abusers. She made a response video. I'm sure it's kind of like an apology or something. Let's take a look.
I apologize if I haven't gotten to all of your messages. I've been out of town, off grid, and I have been having meaningful conversations with people behind the scenes.
Okay, listening is good.
I think my messaging led to some misunderstanding.
Assuming that the conflict there is due to a misunderstanding isn't great, but there's got to be an apology in here somewhere, right?
Not every case has been handled the way it should, and I'm so sorry for those who have been hurt.
Oh, she apologized.
But from
she said but, though. She said sorry, but, sorry, but, sorry, but. She made a response video that said the same exact stuff in the first video, and she deleted the first video just to say it again. I don't know. And then at the end, she plugs that you should go buy the thing. You got to go buy access to listen to the Mormon video right now. It'll be free on YouTube later, but go watch it again. Like, it's like a plug for the thing that she endorsed in the first video. Why make it? It's the same thing. It's the same video.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. She just said it twice. This time she took a more conciliatory tone, and she's saying, well, if you want to know more about it, go back and listen to the fair conference, which was the whole problem to begin with. This apology, it wasn't exactly a full-throated, gee whiz, I'm sorry I got this wrong. She was just, I'm sorry that you didn't agree with me. Do I have that about right?
Yeah. I like what Scab says there. She apologized more for not being on top of the comments on her channel.
Yeah, that not too good of an apology, I don't think. And we're also going to get one other reaction here from Britt over there at No Nonsense Spirituality. You can also find a compilation of her videos right here on the Mormon News Roundup. By the way, if you join the membership of the Mormon News Roundup, that will unlock Britt's content, which is it's only a couple of dollars a month. But Britt here is going to take a crack at this as well. And she is not impressed with what Jasmine has to offer.
To make an apology when you're an apologist who got caught in some hot water. First of all, say, I could have worded things differently. Then you say, because I could have worded things better, it led to some misunderstandings. And then you'll get a little bit of humanity, because there will be a sorry for the hurt that I caused. And you'll get something like, not every case has been dealt with the way that it should have in the church. And then this is what apologists will do. So once they say, like, sorry, misunderstanding, could have worded that better. Sorry that things, sometimes people make mistakes in the church. It's like we created this room with everybody's hurt feelings, but what they will then prioritize is the church's feelings. So she will spend the rest of the apology video defending that the church is doing everything it can to protect children. Everything it can, as if the church is someone in the room whose feelings were hurt. And the reason that this is so frustrating and ironic is because Jesus over and over, not just like one time in like one little forgotten scripture, over and over defended the people who were hurt by the institution over feeling like he needed to defend the correct institution, even though that was the covenant people and correct institution at the time. And then at the end, to make it the perfect apologetics video, is you refer people to where you got the information, which in this case is a church lawyer who is giving a presentation at an apologetics conference, and not someone who is actually, the top of their field, or a social scientist or a therapist, or someone who would really know the data about reporting SA. Because as Julie Hanks said, if it was really true that not mandating reporting helps more children, then therapists would never have, made a system where they are mandated reporters. So if that were true, why do we have mandated reporting at all? It's because the data shows that it's the thing that's most likely to help. So the people that I most trust in these kinds of situations are people to say, I have my faith, I love this aspect of the doctrine, I love this community, and it seems like we could also get better when it comes to SA. It seems like we're the only organization that allows men behind closed doors to ask minor about their bodies and about sexuality when no one else is allowed to do that. But as we learned, the members that did that publicly got excommunicated. So my response to Jasmine's response is that I believe that you are human, and that when you got this big amount of feedback and a lot of people sharing their stories with you about how your words hurt them and brought up their triggers of how they were treated in the church in regards to SA, I genuinely believe that was painful for you to, get back. I genuinely believe you don't want that to happen to people, especially in your church. And I genuinely believe that you're sorry for the way that you worded things so that it would cause harm and trigger to other people. But when it came time to sit in a room with everybody's hurt feelings, the hurt feelings you decided to defend the most is an institution, because you essentially said that the institution is doing everything it could possibly do to protect children. And we know there are at least 10 things that Mormon Mental Health Association, every other religion does in America. There are 10 to 15 things that the church could do that everybody else is doing that the Mormon church is not doing. So to say that is you still defending the very practices that are hurting the people that you didn't want to hurt their feelings. Like you're still defending it. And then you still defer to only apologetic information when it comes to looking at these statistics, and you don't allow for any other information to enter the conversation, which means it's a closed conversation. And when it's a closed conversation, it's just going to cause more harm. You would have had my respect if you would have said sorry, which you did. You did say sorry, and I do believe that you're sorry. But you would have gotten my respect if you would have done that and said, and also, even though I have my faith, the church could always improve. We have continual revelation. We're not perfect. There's some things apparently that we could do to be better. That would have garnered my trust. But by choosing to defend the church and the very practices that were hurting the people that you were saying sorry to, it just discredits your entire apology to me. And I'll even go so far as to say we know that the church changes with pressure, often pressure from the outside. And so ex-Mormons who put pressure to make institutional changes actually causes the church to change for the better for the people in the inside, more so than people on the inside who are just supporting the church in whatever it does. So me as an ex-Mormon speaking up against institutional things that the Mormon church could do better actually does more to protect the Mormon community that you love and are a part of more than what apologetics does. So Jasmine, as a person, I respect your humanity as a person. I respect your right to believe whatever you want to believe. I think that your apology was genuine. I think you genuinely felt bad and felt sorry. And I appreciate you saying that. And also, I think that you're an untrustworthy source, because when it comes to seeing people the way Jesus did or defending the institution, you always decide to defend the institution. And I think that makes you untrustworthy.
Okay, so let's get your reaction in here, Brittany. Basically, Britt Hartley is saying that Jasmine the apology falls short because Jasmine is always going to defend the institution over everything else. Therefore, we can't really trust Jasmine because basically she's a shill for the Mormon Corporation.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't listen to Jasmine because she sounds annoying. But this, I don't know, what'd you say her name was? Britt?
Britt Hartley.
She made some amazing points. I went ahead and followed her because she just had some really great things to say, and I don't think I could say it any better.
Yeah, I almost never disagree with Britt. She does an absolutely fantastic job, and she's basically, like my idol. She does a great job. Harold out there said, isn't the folks over there at 21st Century Saints putting together a book of instructions about how to keep children safe? I'm not familiar with that, but those folks over there, Jane and Christy over there at 21st Century Saints, they did do a great job of getting the church to perform background checks in the United Kingdom, even though it wasn't mandated by law. So yes, my tip of my hat off to them. If you could, by the way, those of you out there, hit the like and subscription right now. I would greatly appreciate that. That makes a big difference. But that's basically it on Jasmine stepping in, except for one last thing. Jasmine isn't done this week. After stepping in at big time and causing a huge uproar, she is going to invite you to spend even more time with her. Let's see.
I have a fun trip coming up, and I would love for you to come with me. If you want to get to know me personally a little bit better and learn about the gospel at the same time, this November, I'm going to be going on a cruise with other Latter-day Saint podcasters like David Boyce of 52 Churches in 52 Weeks, Jacob Hansen, and several others. We're going to be going to Mexico. I would love for you to join me. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to go on vacation and nerd out about the gospel on a boat for 7 days. So you can find it at goanddotravel.com. It's called the Wave Makers Podcasters Cruise, and use the coupon code Jasmine Rapley to get a discount.
Wow. Are you going on this cruise here, Brittany?
I'm going on a cruise in November, and so when I saw that, I started getting scared for a second. But we are going on different cruises, so I am very grateful because I don't want to be stuck on. I'd rather be on the poop cruise, not that. No.
And this is the folks here that are going to be on this cruise here. Greg from Quick Media, Thoughtful Faith, Jacob Hansen, Stick of Joseph, the Paul brothers, Jasmine Rapalai, David Butler. I'm not that familiar with him. Plain and Precious Things, 52 Churches in 52 Weeks, David Boyce, Word Radio, Carden Ellis. Brittany, this is basically the who's who of Mormon LDS homophobic bigots. Is that, am I being too uncharitable about that?
Oh man, it's not a great crew. It really isn't. I think that you're barely there.
And as Harold said, welcome to the program. Great to see you, Harold. Oh my God, no. And Scab out there, who is a supporter of the Mormon News Roundup on Patreon, which I greatly appreciate, said, Jasmine and folks like myself in the same room actually sounds like a disaster before it even starts. And Howie also said, trapped on a boat with Jacob Hansen, the absolute horror. I'm with you 100%. We have talked a lot about already for this podcast about the churches falling down, not doing the right thing when it comes to CSA. This is a consistent and persistent problem, something we definitely highlight here on the Mormon News Roundup. And there's been another lawsuit. In fact, there was a number of cases this week, a number of lawsuits that came out. We can't cover them all. This entire podcast could be devoted to nothing but CSA lawsuits. We don't have time for that, but there is one more that you really got some national attention here. And this is another lawsuit. The Mormon Church needs to continue to change their policies in their, this is according to Ms. Anderson here, in their cult, and start protecting and standing up for SA victims. This is a lawsuit in San Diego alleging that the church turned a blind eye to a report of an elder who was engaged in abuse. Let's see what's going on over there in San Diego.
This next story contains graphic details and could be disturbing to some viewers. It was betrayal beyond description. The woman sexually abused for years by her father when she was a little girl is now suing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She says her mother turned to the church for help when she caught her husband sexually assaulting their daughter when she was only 5 years old. But the abuse never stopped. We talked with her about her legal battle against the church.
Well, we got our newest member of the Benita First Ward here, Elizabeth.
The first time that he held me in the hospital after I was born, he got an erection.
Elizabeth, we're only using her first name, was repeatedly sexually abused by her father from birth.
He started abusing me, like literally as soon as they brought me home from the hospital.
Her family was deeply involved in the Church of Latter-day Saints, and her attorney says they attended this ward in Lemon Grove. Her father was an elder there, and she says he used their Mormon faith as a weapon, framing her personal hell as the path to heaven.
If you love me, you'll do this for me. And Jesus wants us to love each other. And I wanted to show him that I loved him, so I did.
Her father hid his dark secret, but Elizabeth's mother caught him in the act when she was only 5 years old.
I thought I was in trouble. I did not understand why she was so mad. I thought I had done something wrong and I was in trouble because she just started screaming. I remember running and hiding, and then just nothing really changed after that.
Elizabeth's mom did what they were taught to do.
When you have a problem, you go to your priesthood leaders. So that.
She was told along with her mother not to disclose, not to report it, and they would take care of it. And instead of taking care of it, they allowed the abuse to continue for many more years.
Sam Dordulian is a former prosecutor of sex crimes in LA and represents Elizabeth in her lawsuit against her father and the Church of Latter-day Saints.
They tried to hide it. They told the family not to disclose it. They said they would take care of it, and they did nothing to take care of the problem. And the abuse, and Elizabeth kept suffering abuse year after year after year.
When they learned of continued abuse, the church finally excommunicated Maynard McFarland, but they still wouldn't turn him in to authorities. Elizabeth left home at 18, but took her trauma with her.
There were times where I would have to go to the, emergency room for 70 plus stitches because I had gone through an episode of self-harm.
In 2004, Elizabeth called San Diego police. They helped set up and record a phone call where Elizabeth confronted her father.
Do you remember when Mom caught us?
The first time? Sure.
How old was I?
I don't even remember.
Come on, Dad.
Maynard McFarland was arrested, charged, convicted, and sentenced to 32 years for his crimes against his daughter. He served 15. He now lives in Chula Vista, registered as a low-threat sexual offender.
I still have flashbacks. I still have anxiety, depression. I mean, just a whole host of trauma.
The lawsuit is only possible now because of AB 218, a California law that extended the statute of limitations for survivors of childhood sexual abuse. It could result in a 7-figure payout from the church, but it would be cynical to think you could put a price on Elizabeth's suffering. Responding to CBS 8, a spokesperson for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints said they have zero tolerance for any kind of abuse and that it, quote, is still reviewing this complaint regarding abuse that occurred more than 2 decades ago, but disputes the allegations that church leaders advised the family not to report the abuse of the father to authorities.
How is it right that so many people knew what was happening and just let it happen? I still can't answer that question.
Elizabeth was trapped by family and faith and feels fury now when she sees video of her baptism as a child.
It makes my blood boil. And the fact that his priesthood leader knew what he was doing and just allowed him to baptize me, yeah, that makes me angry too.
So what are you hoping for in this lawsuit that will change with this church?
The way that they finally decide, oh no, we need to make a change, is when there's finally some sort of pain, financial pain inflicted on them. And we're hoping that this church will realize that what they did and their policies in the past, which sometimes continues on to today, needs to change. The children must come first.
And for those of you wondering about the mother's role, the lawsuit says that the church ordered her to not report the sexual abuse to law enforcement and that she, quote, justifiably relied on this policy and believed the church would protect her daughter. Church members are now mandated by law to report child sexual abuse to law enforcement or face misdemeanor charges.
Okay, Brittany, what is your first reaction to this? This is a breaking news story. It's just released a couple of days ago.
It doesn't surprise me. I have my own past history with the church. My ex-husband was an abuser. I had to report it. I didn't even give the bishop an opportunity to tell me not to report it. But seeing how they handled it, he was a Sunbeam teacher and nobody told anybody. That's wild. Like, they can say that they're trying to protect the children all they want, but I haven't seen it in action.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm really sorry that happened to you, first of all. That's absolutely terrible. And the crazy thing about it is that those who are around the church, like, I know that you stay up on the Mormon news pretty well. You're up on the latest and the greatest events, and so do I. We are not at all surprised by this. Some people might be, but I'm not surprised in the slightest. And why is that? This is the outcropping of what Jasmine was teaching to begin with. She was the one who was arguing for this, which is what we get from the Fair Conference and the church lawyer. And she basically doubled down on what she said before. She apologized that some people, I don't know, she was inarticulate or some people might have gotten offended, but she basically said that, yeah, this is our policy. And she claims, the church spokesperson in this particular clip claims that there's zero tolerance. I find that hard to believe. Actions speak louder than words. And if the family is to be taken seriously here, they were told not to report. We've heard that so many different times of family members being told not to report, bishops told not to report, other people told not to report. And this is the deal. They excommunicated the person who committed the abuse, but they still didn't report it to the police. That's reprehensible. And the question that was posed in this clip is that she said, how did so many people do nothing even though they knew? And we go back to Jasmine and those lawyers. They call the helpline and lawyers tell them, hey, you don't have to report. You don't have to tell anyone. And the only way that this is going to change, and I agree with the sentiment here to begin with, is that the church is going to need to be brought to the table and financially punished for its illicit practices in a substantial way through probably a class action lawsuit. It's going to need to be billions of dollars, because anything less than that and it's not going to change. Any last thoughts about this clip or the church with CSA or abuse in the way that it handles these things?
I got a lot of thoughts, but not enough for the evening.
Okay. You follow Brittany the Apostate over there on TikTok. I'm sure you got a lot more thoughts over there. Now, Benjamin Park, changing gears here, talked about a new survey that just came out for BYU students. And he's going to say BYU students, their surveys often serve as a good barometer for the LDS Church's anxieties over retrenchment. Let's see what's going on at BYU.
Young University often serves as a petri dish for the broader LDS Church's cultural and spiritual retrenchment. BYU held its annual faculty orientation this week, and Deseret News, the LDS Church's newspaper, covered the remarks from Clark Gilbert, the Commissioner of Education, and Shane Reese, the president of BYU. And their remarks focused on how BYU needs to retain and in some ways reinforce its spiritual mission at a time when the broader nation is losing its spiritual foundations. Now, this needs to be understood within the broader story of retrenchment taking place at BYU, something covered earlier this year in a great piece of journalistic reporting by Peggy Fletcher Stack and the Salt Lake Tribune about how many in the church, the parents, the culture warriors, and church leaders believe the university is becoming too secular and progressive, and they want them to rein in and focus on the doctrines of reaffirming one's testimony. Now, to show evidence that this retrenchment is working in their minds, they cite a student survey that shows that in 2023, 78% of BYU students said that their faith was strengthened at the university, a number that has now risen to 87% in the last year. As a historian who has a particular interest in BYU, I'm an alum, that survey struck me because it relates to a longer string of retrenchment related to these types of questions. Because when a very similar question was asked to BYU students in 1935, the number was only 42% who said that their faith was fortified at BYU. That caused BYU leaders and church authorities anguish and launched a major retrenchment program that paid off in their mind, because when that question was asked in 1973, the number rose to 82%. Scholars have often emphasized how the LDS Church fluctuates between wanting to assimilate into American culture and then retrenching when they feel that those boundaries are becoming too permeable. That the LDS faith is never rarely stagnant, but often in flux. There's no better place to better examine that shift than at BYU, where the LDS leaders believe that's where the next generation of saints are going to come from, as well as a place where they feel they control. So if you're curious what the general anxieties of church leadership is and how they hope to address it, look no further than BYU.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Benjamin Park. Let me ask you, Brittany, do you think that the church is going through a period of retrenchment, meaning, trying to regress to a more conservative vibe? And is that happening at BYU and throughout the church as general rule?
I mean, I definitely feel it, at least with the newest stuff that's been coming out with this prophet. Whether he's the one actually living in church right now or not, I don't know how healthy he is. But it feels like, at least with BYU, trying to really get rid of professors that are left-leaning at all, trying to share facts at all. It seems like they're really trying to control the narrative more and more and make sure their students are fully brainwashed.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, I noticed in the background, I got that book. Haven't returned it to the library in a long time, but he wrote that.
Yeah, that's one of his that's his most latest book. A very good read, to be sure. Now, my couple of thoughts. First of all, The Dark Days of BYU, which is Peggy Fletcher Stack's brilliant journalistic piece that she put out from BYU about 6 months ago, was amazing. I devoted an entire 2-hour episode to that one article. Really should go back and watch it. And I know that Peggy herself watched that episode of the Mormon News Roundup, and we did talk about it. That is definitely a must-watch episode, one of my best works. BYU students becoming more fervent, that is a little bit of a surprise to me, but not a huge surprise, because faith being fortified is always an emphasis on the BYU campus. And just so that just so that people know, I either worked full-time or part-time for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for almost 24 years. A huge amount of time at that was at BYU. I have a couple of degrees from the institution, so I do think that I do know a thing or two about that. Scap, do you think the church is moving quicker than normal on the retrenchment? No, it's probably about the same amount of retrenching. It's usually in cycles. And that's why I was going to ask you, Brittany, do you think that the church is, do you think that BYU is becoming more woke, or do you think it is more retrenching, becoming more conservative?
I mean, from what I've heard, and I'm out here in St. Louis, Missouri, so I don't hear a whole lot, but it seems like they're trying their best to be not as woke. But the problem is they want to attract new members, but they also don't want those new members to think critically. So, they're having a problem there.
Yeah, they definitely are. Speaking of BYU, by the way, if you could leave us a comment down below, let us know what your thoughts are about BYU. I was running a poll during this particular segment here in the audience. Is the church going through a retrenchment? 66% of you said not sure, and only a third of you said yes, and very few of you said no. So that's very interesting. BYU did win its first football game here of the season against Portland State here. They blew them out. Do you care about BYU football at all here, Brittany? Yes or no?
I got nothing to say about it.
Nothing on this one.
No.
Cosmo the Cougar here, they are really off to a good start here. Some of that millions and millions of dollars, now that they can pay those church athletes, the school athletes at BYU, how much tithing dollars do you think are getting funneled not only into the BYU football program, but directly into the pockets of those athletes who are taking the field? That's my question. Not only is some of your tithing going into an illegal clandestine hedge fund, some of it is going to regress, gay rights, but now some of it is going directly into the pockets of these students, thanks to the new NCAA procedures where these people can be paid. And that's where the BYU really has a step above all of its sister schools, because the Mormon Church owns BYU as the board of directors, and they have virtually unlimited funds. The church is worth, I don't know, about $360 billion or so. They can pay these athletes more than anyone else. How do you feel about the money that's going into these BYU football programs and tithing?
Oh, well, I mean, at least the BYU people they're gonna pay the tithing back on their income. So, it all comes back around. The church will make its money somehow.
They definitely will. And a couple of comments here that I just want to highlight here. Harold, feels like the church is going through a transition, but into what? Well, it is going to be shaped by one person, Dallin H. Oaks. That's where it is transitioning in. And if we know anything about Dallin Oaks, it is going to be an anti-LGBTQ transition, to be sure. And as Scab said, that was more ass grabs than allowed at an honor code book. That could be true. He was definitely getting busy with it. And Songs, thanks for tuning in, longtime viewer. They're more woke than they want, but getting more traditional and strict with the rules. There's always a give and a take at BYU. And did you catch the news article here? This is one that really caught my eye. What are we looking at here, Brittany? What do you see with the crazy chapel here?
That's a whole lot of mud. Whole lot of it. But no, it didn't get in the chapel. God saved the chapel, everybody.
Yeah, this is from KUTV News here a couple of days ago. Thousands of pounds of debris slid out the steep Buckley Draw in Provo after a microburst of rain hit the burn scar, covering the roadway and burying a church building up to 4 feet of mud. This is the inside of a chapel. Absolutely crazy here with these images. Let me see if I can zoom in on these. This is look at that. That's the kitchen. Look at that mud. That's pretty crazy there, Brittany. What do you think?
If you go to that kitchen picture, you can see how it's all the way up to the chair seat there. That's inside. Outside, it was stacked all the way against the wall. They were shoveling in it.
Yeah, Scab said, I don't think that this is going to be a volunteer cleanup. That is some serious mud. You know,
It
people
was a
were.
volunteer cleanup.
I imagine they brought in the professionals. This looks like an insurance job to me, but I
Oh, yeah.
really don't know for sure. Some people, I feel sorry for whatever members were already assigned cleaning duties for that Saturday. That's not the Saturday you want to show up on, that's for sure. You know, the joke here is this is what happens if you don't use the kitchen just for warming. You know, it really, a lot of bad things happen. That's pretty cray-cray out there. I was surprised to see that one. And this is what you said here. What did you post on this one, Brittany?
Oh, I found this meme. It says omnipotent, omniscient, destroys own places of worship by natural disasters, though.
Yeah, that's crazy. See, I thought the Mormon Jesus would take care of the chapel, but what do I know about Mormon Jesus? Apparently not very much. Very interesting stuff. Now, moving right along here, unfortunately, we do have somewhat of a tragedy, but it is somewhat a bizarre tragedy here of a senior LDS missionary dying in a lawn mowing accident.
New tonight at 10 o'clock, a senior missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints died when a riding lawnmower he was driving flipped over. Elder Brent Blackburn has been serving with his wife, Carolyn Blackburn, on the grounds of the Adamondiaman Mission site in Missouri since April. They're both from Helper here in Utah, and the church says its prayers are with their family.
Okay, so first reactions here to a lawnmower missionary senior death. This is a tough one.
I mean, was he like, did he know how to ride? I mean, I'm sure he knew how to ride a lawnmower, but I heard it was on a hill. Very unsafe conditions for this old gentleman to be paying to do. It's just insane.
Yeah, apparently he was at Adamondiaman, which is how far is that from you? Not that far, right?
You know what? I've never been there because I've been to Independence, Missouri a whole lot, but it's like an hour and a half north of Independence, Missouri, so it's just way too far out of my way. But I'd say maybe like 5.5, 6 hours if I drove there straight from here. Yeah. Out of the way.
Yeah, I have been to Adamondiaman myself. Quite a place to see. There's really not much there. It's just mostly open fields. But apparently he was mowing the lawnmower and he went up on the side and then it slipped over and fell on him. A horrific accident. Unfortunate to be sure. But there's a lot more that could be said about this. In fact, if you look at the Salt Lake Tribune, you notice a weird juxtaposition here. Here we have on the top here, this was brought out to my attention from the Mormonish podcast. LDS mission president wounded by gunman says it's a miracle he's still alive, whereas the senior missionary is killed by lawnmower crash. Apparently that's not a miracle. See, this is my question here is why are certain people protected from imminent death like the mission president, but someone else in their lawnmower accident is not protected at all? Can you explain that at all?
I don't know. It must just be all God's plan or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's and I also got this on X here from Nancy Rigdon 3 here. She said, multi-billion-dollar corporation has a 68-year-old man mow the lawn for free. In fact, he was actually paying to be there rather than pay for professional landscaping. Prayers to the Blackburn family. And I can't help but bring this point up to our attention that 70-year-old guys who generally don't mow a lot of yards, especially Adamondiaman is like a huge place. It's got a lot of open spaces here. If you had paid for a professional landscaping service, he would still be alive today. Instead, he was paying to mow the yard and then he passed away. How come the church just won't pay for professional landscaping or janitorial services?
Well, they're really cheap. They want all that money. And also, if you can convince your members that you need it, somehow that convinces them to think that you're spending your money wisely. I think it's all just a big hoax.
Yeah, see, the Blackburn family here, look, I'm not trying to make light of this at all, but there is a thing in the church it's like a martyrdom. Whenever a missionary dies, it always makes the front page of the Deseret News, and they talk about the faithfulness of the mission, and they never talk about anything that could have prevented the accident, like missionaries when they die on bicycles. They never said, hey, how come he wasn't in a car? Or how come this person didn't have professional landscaping instead of having a 70-year-old man who might have had limited landscaping background be able to mow these yards? That there's like a martyr cult thing that goes with, look, he gave the ultimate sacrifice for the church, therefore he really believes. And I find it to be very distasteful. Am I reading too much into this?
I think that's a good way to put it, honestly.
Oh, I hope so. Now, you posted this on Facebook here. What did you say about this Facebook post with the senior missionary passing away on your Facebook post?
Well, I found out you can look up the senior missionary like opportunities, and there just happens to be one for the Missouri like historical sites, Missouri Independence area. Now that's a little, like I said, south of Adamantium. That's a mouthful. But they urgently need someone to help maintain their facilities in that area for just the low cost of $3,200 or something like that a month.
So he was paying, he and his wife, $3,200 per month to mow those fields in Adamantium.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least $1,400 to the church every month, because they don't go over that much, which is so expensive for a multi-billion-dollar church. And then the rest, they pay for all their food, transportation, everything.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. In fact, you released a TikTok video on here. Let's see you with your own TikTok here. Let's see what you said about this one.
LDS Church died while mowing over the weekend. Elder Blackburn was serving at the Adamantium site in Missouri. Adamantium is the Garden of Eden to Mormons. Yes, the Garden of Eden is in Missouri, according to the One True Church. Elder Blackburn, who is 68, was serving a senior mission there with his wife since 2023. He was operating a riding lawnmower on a side hill when it overturned. They don't say exactly what happened, but probably crushed or something. I just want to point out how ridiculous it is that he was even mowing the lawn in the first place, because the LDS Church has billions of dollars and could have hired a professional, or maybe bought a lawnmower with rollover protection. I don't know exactly what happened, and I don't know who's at fault or if anybody is. Missionaries pay for their missions. I know that the younger ones pay $12,000 for their 2-year missions. These senior missionaries oftentimes sell their homes or rent them out. They sell their belongings, their possessions. They say goodbye to their family, their kids and their grandkids and their great-grandkids, and they go for 2 years away to serve a multi-billion-dollar corporation hiding itself as a non-profit church. Any other multi-billion-dollar corporation could have probably hired somebody with more experience and knowledge to mow the Garden of Eden. It just boggles my mind. I'm very sad for these two people, for their families, their loved ones, and everybody who knew them. I am not sad for the LDS Church that has put these people in this kind of position. And it's not the first time. There was a senior missionary just in Mexico recently who got shot. There are missionaries all over the world traveling to dangerous places thinking God has their back while they're knocking on doors till 9 p.m. at night.
Well, what's your any reactions to your own reaction?
There was something I was thinking, but I lost it. So if it comes back to me, I'll let you know.
Well, we'll be following you on Britty the Apostate over there on TikTok in case you have any more thoughts about that. And we're running a poll about that. Let's review the answers to the poll. And I said, a missionary dying in a lawn mowing accident, is it preventable? Is it thoughts and prayers? Is it tragic? Or is it weird death cult stuff? And 50% of you said preventable, and 50% of you said thoughts and prayers. Seems like a totally preventable accident or tragedy that could have been prevented. And that's very unfortunate. My heart goes out to the family here. Changing gears here. Mormon Church affiliate buys Boca Raton apartments in the same week. See, this is the juxtaposition here. We're trying to save a couple of bucks here by having a 70-year-old man mow a yard at the same time that in just this 1 week, we spent $152 million on Boca Raton. I haven't been there myself. I was in Florida last year, I guess. There's some really expensive real estate there, really nice places to live. Just look at the pictures here. A real estate arm tied to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has acquired an entire apartment complex for $152 million. Now, this is typically what happens when the church obtains these apartment complexes. They lease these out to other people in perpetuity. When they buy something, they don't don't just sell it for a profit. They bring in the leases that come every single month from these in perpetuity. People never own these apartments. They just lease it back from the church. That way the church always gets a lot of money. At the same time that we're trying to save a couple of bucks on landscaping, we're buying $150 million in Florida. I mean, the contrast here is highly ironic, don't you think?
Yeah, I think Joseph Smith could only dream of these kinds of financial conditions for the church.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a couple of reactions to go along with this here. Not only is the church buying a lot of real estate at the same time that this unfortunate family here, this man passed away, but they're also asking people to please clean the LDS campground while we buy a multi-million-dollar apartment complex in Florida. So we need you to clean the campground. We need you to clean up the church. We saw the church earlier. That was supposedly cleaned by members. I don't know. I guarantee some members were involved. Mowing the yards at the same time. I mean, this is just the contrast is amazing.
Okay, 2 recent posts. I just have to put them together to make a point. The first one says, Church of Latter-day Saints, okay, love it when they call them that because they can't figure out what the heck they're supposed to call them, buys South Florida rental complex for $153 million. We've seen a lot of news articles like this recently. Let's juxtapose that with this plea to a stake to please come out and clean the campground. They need 5 people from each ward. They need somebody to find or borrow or bring a carpet shampooer. You can stay overnight because you're going to be cleaning so much over the weekend. Is anybody seeing this? Honestly, can anybody see the juxtaposition and what's wrong with this picture? Maybe not. I just thought it was interesting. A carpet shampooer. Come on.
You're going to be staying overnight to clean the chapel for a couple of extra dollars, while at the same time the church is spending $155 million in just one purchase in South Florida. Man, that is some really whack stuff, honestly, Brittany.
I don't know. They keep saying that the church has to save up all this money for something. I don't know what it is, but they can't, hire someone to clean a toilet. Give someone a job? I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like somebody could be given a job. Now, Nemo the Mormon also weighed in on this land purchase down there in Florida. He watches the real estate pretty good. Let's see what Nemo's got to say about the church buying a $153 million rental complex in Florida.
Said they were devoting significant financial resources to help alleviate suffering in the Israel-Gaza conflict. But do you reckon it was more than $153 million? Because that's what they just spent buying one rental complex in South Florida. Now, what they've sent to alleviate suffering in Gaza may not be significant compared to their overall financial wealth, which stands in the hundreds of billions of dollars, but one would hope it was at least significant compared to their commercial real estate and property purchases. Because if it isn't, then we may well ask ourselves, is Mormonism just becoming the McDonald's of religion? American, a consistent global image, and a real estate empire under the guise of a restaurant, or in this case, a church. Let me know what you think in the comments.
See, I guess I kind of cut that off just a little bit because the church also this week, maybe I didn't bring that up well enough, said that they were sending significant resources to help with Gaza. And Lord knows Gaza the people of Gaza are suffering and need a lot of help, but they didn't specify the exact amount of help, which would have been helpful, by the way. And do you think that the church is going to send more than $153 million to the people in Gaza? Because that's what they just spent in South Florida.
I don't know. I doubt that. I think that their whole religion probably isn't playing a great part in the role in Gaza.
Yeah, well, the church could have the ability to affect Gaza in profound ways like almost no other organization can. I really hope that they provide significant resources, but it would have been nice if they had given us a number. And more importantly, it would have been nice if they had done it with an external audit so that we could have confidence in whatever the church decides to do with its humanitarian giving worldwide, by the way. And a couple of comments here. Harold White says the Church of Real Estate. Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good. Howie, they're saving for the second coming of Jesus. Did you miss them saying that? That's pretty sick because people are suffering now and need help now. And Sachmo, welcome to the program. The church needs a place for all the retiring general authorities to live out their golden years. I mean, these folks, they need some place to live, but there's people who need help who are suffering very, very much. And Nemo, Scab says that Nemo is on point as usual. I agree with you 100%. We do have a lot of articles to get through here. We're going to give it to you fast and furious. Yes, Actually, I covered that one already. And this is the weird point that Rebecca Biblioteca and others are pointing out. So the church released information about the real estate purchase in Florida on the church's own website here. This is from the Intellectual Reserve here on the church's own website. It is asking the question here, Brady, does the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints own farms in Australia? Does it own these commercial complexes? Does it own all of this real estate? This is from the church's own website here. And this is the surprising apologetic answer here, is that the church is claiming that it's not buying all of these things. It's saying, despite assertions to the contrary, the church is not a financial institution or commercial entity. Therefore, when the announcement of the news says that they bought all of these farms in Australia or these apartment complexes, technically that is fake news, because the church didn't buy these things. The church's auxiliary arm bought the thing. So let's see what Rebecca says here. Of course, now it's going to time out on me. Oh, here we go.
Okay, now we're just getting silly. So last week I posted about the church buying up a whole bunch of farmland in Australia and Australia raising the alarm. Now in the church newsroom, an article, does the LDS Church own farmlands in Australia? First, it is not correct to say that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is buying farms in Australia. Farmland Reserve, through its subsidiary, Akira Farms, has invested in agricultural properties in Australia. While Farmland Reserve is an affiliate of the church, it's a separate entity. Later in the article, it says, despite assertions to the contrary, the church is not a financial institution or a commercial entity. This is absurd. If you look up Farmland Reserve, it clearly says that it is a mechanism through which the church prudently builds up its reserve of money. This is very interesting that they would even try to post this. A lot of people don't believe it.
Okay, so let me ask you, Brittany, is it accurate to say that the church is buying all this real estate, all these farms, all of these multi-million-dollar malls, if it's really one of the church's auxiliaries, either Farmland Reserve Inc. or Akira Farms or any of the other church arms? Is the church being honest in its dealings here?
No, they're using a middleman. Like they're just using things for tax purposes. So whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if the church is the sole owner of Farmland Reserve or Ag Reserve or any of these other entities, sometimes they use for-profit entities to purchase their real estate. Sometimes they use nonprofit entities. If the church is the one who solely owns them, I don't see that there's much of a delineation. I mean, if I give my son $20 and he buys something with it, well, that's part of my household. We bought it and he's going to remain here. So I think it's a bit of a semantics game, to be sure. And for those of you out there, if you can hit the thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate that. Now, the church also in this week, Brady, I want to bring to your attention, the church brought out some new, they're kind of like gospel topics essays, but they're kind of question and answers to common questions that the church has that are not entirely gospel topics essays, but the church is released 3 essays this last week on how to respond to people who are doubting. And Julia over there at Analyzing Mormonism is going to give us the lowdown on these 3 new essays out there that the church released. Let's see. The church is supposedly changing its messaging on doubters. Let's see what they call you're the apostate. So let's see what they're trying to call you now. Supposedly something new. Let's see what's going on.
So the Mormon Church recently released 3 new essays on their website. Not specific gospel topics essays. I mean, they are, but they're not in the same place. So the 3 new essays are Joseph Smith's character, polygamy, and the Book of Mormon translation. I'm going to go over my initial reactions on the Book of Mormon translation essay, and maybe I'll do the others later. Firstly, the Mormon Church is finally admitting that the text of the Book of Mormon came by revelation. Even the church's own historians have been saying for years now that the Book of Mormon is a 19th century text, not an ancient record. And in a lot of ways, that's what this sentence feels like. Through the revelatory process, God helped his prophet produce a translation. So this has never really made sense to me. If words appear on a rock and he writes them down, it's not a translation. If I type something into Google Translate and then write it down, it's not me who's translating, it's Google. But anyway, the church has worked to ensure that the Book of Mormon's witness of the Savior is available in many languages of the world. Okay, but if the church still has Joseph Smith's stone, which they do, then why don't the top 15 prophets, seers, and revelators use it to translate it into all of the languages of the world? Joseph Smith used the seer stone to search for buried treasure before he used it for the Book of Mormon. Although he claimed he could, Joseph Smith literally never found any treasure with his seer stone. Also, to my knowledge, people didn't use seer stones to translate ancient records. The memory of the seer stones faded away among Latter-day Saints. Oh, Did it? Could it possibly be because Joseph Fielding Smith gaslit everyone and said that Joseph Smith did not use the seer stones to translate the Book of Mormon? Also, the church deliberately and officially made a film where they had it all set up to show Joseph Smith using his rock in a hat. But all they ended up showing was one corner of the hat that lasted for like 2 seconds. So Mormon Church, you're kind of the one to blame for the whole memory hole thing. The 8 witnesses said they saw and examined the plates. And at the same time, some of the witnesses said that they saw the plates with their spiritual eyes. One even saying, of course we were in the spirit when we had the view. Actually, even some of the testimonies of the 8 witnesses said it was also a spiritual experience. Then the essay goes on to talk about some of the changes to the text, like changing white to pure, adding the words the son of, and changing the title of Jesus Christ to Messiah. All of these can be used to argue the idea that Joseph Smith was the author of the text, as part of Joseph Smith's changing view of the Godhead, and also them knowing Jesus Christ's name before it was revealed. That's anachronistic. One thing that I noticed that the essay did not talk about was how the words didn't leave the seer stone until they were written down correctly. And if that's true like the witnesses said it was, then Joseph Smith shouldn't be changing any of the words at all. Anyway, those were the main things that I noticed. I wonder how much and how quickly the church will latch onto this idea that the Book of Mormon was a revelation, not a translation.
Okay, so like, unfortunately, there's like 3 different essays that they brought out, and I think I queued up the wrong one. There's one on Joseph Smith's character, there's one on the Book of Mormon, and then there's one on how we should talk about apostates. How do you feel about how Julia talked about how the church is trying to change the narrative on the coming forth of the Book of Mormon, and acknowledging that maybe it's not a quote-unquote translation like we were all taught, but instead it was kind of a revelation?
Oh boy, they should really just come clean and say it was all made up, because this isn't making any sense, these new ideas they're saying.
Yeah, there's a lot of spin that goes along with a Mormon corporation. We keep seeing that, whether it's how the church buys real estate, whether it's the spin for how the Book of Mormon came forth. We don't have time to go over how the church has trying to change its narrative on how we talk about doubters, whether they're trying to soften a little bit of their tone, because in times past, there's been some incredibly nasty rhetoric about people who leave the church, all the way back from the time of Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, and even up until the modern days. If you go onto the Mormon News Roundup, and you will find a video that I released called the top 10 nastiest things that Mormon church leaders have ever said about those who leave the faith, and there are some really horrific things. Now, we're getting a couple of last lighter takes here. We're trying to get this podcast done in 1 hour. I'm not sure if we will be successful. Over there on ex-Mormon Reddit, I saw this, Brittany, and it kind of blew my mind. It says that Utah is ordering more pumpkin spice lattes than almost any other state, according to new DoorDash data. How can that be? Because the Devil's Brew, I thought, was a sin. How do you reconcile this, Brittany?
Well, if they're ordering it through DoorDash, they don't have to see their other ward members at Starbucks.
Ah, so it's anonymous sinning. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
It sounds like it to me, I think.
Ah, the priesthood. Who says you don't have priesthood discernment? And this is what they say. Girls the second the pumpkin slice lattes return. Have you seen this one here?
Oh, see this.
Oh no. Hallelujah.
Brittany, is that accurate with when the girls see the pumpkin spice lattes come out?
It reminds me of my girlfriend exactly. Right now we have pumpkin spice bagels in the pantry and pumpkin spice pancake mix for tomorrow morning.
Yes, and apparently, as you said, as long as you order it on DoorDash, then you don't have to see your neighbors, and you can sip the Devil's Brew without alerting anyone who might be offended, right? Is that what the message that you're giving to me?
Yeah, hopefully it's not your bishopric member delivering that DoorDash, though.
Bishopric members that I know have a lot of dough, so usually they're not doing DoorDash, although there are exceptions. Now, the new Provo dating show has been around. It is really going viral. Her Mormon dating show goes viral every episode here. This is pretty crazy here. I haven't watched all of the episodes here, but this is basically the trailer. This is some pretty crazy stuff here.
Guys, this new Mormon dating show called The Altar has absolutely taken over my life, and it also has taken over X, and the discourse around it is certifiably insane. Because apparently, according to commenters, a girl goes skydiving, and suddenly, she's a hoe who is undateable. Let's watch the clip that went viral.
Okay, I'm Riley. I'm 24. I'm from Houston, Texas. And honestly, I'm down for any good adventure. I just got scuba dive certified and I'm planning to go to Australia this summer, so I'm super excited about that. And then I just picked up skiing like 2 years ago. And I honestly love any themed party. Like those are like my favorite things to go to, my favorite things to plan. And I'm looking for someone that wants to be my adventure buddy, and it's someone that I can trust in and is going to be there for me.
Aww. Okay, any gentleman would like to get to know Riley more, please step forward.
Oh, it gets so upsetting.
What? Guys, come on, guys. Where you at?
No.
What was wrong with that?
Come on. So this sweet girl, Riley, she stands up, she introduces herself to these guys. If they like what they hear, they'll stand up and go, okay, well, I'll introduce myself and we can get to know each other. Nobody stood up. Everyone has an opinion on why sweet Riley did not get picked. And they're shocking. These are the types of things that people were saying. This guy said, we need to talk more about how much of a red flag it is for men when a girl says, I love to travel.
What?
Apparently, that is a huge red flag. Another person said, the most charitable view of this is that, quote unquote, travel means shifty, rootless, and a compulsive spender. Another guy said, quote unquote, I want to get railed by lots of foreign men and then settle down.
Okay.
Another guy said, so many red flags with this one. Way too much crazy with way too little hot. Easy pass. In what world did you watch that video of that sweet, innocent girl and go, oh yeah, shifty, rootless? This comment section should be the only evidence we need that men and women are on completely different tracks right now, that we are completely misunderstanding each other, that there is a genuine dislike and distrust of the sexes. Guys, this
Oh my gosh, this Mormon dating show looks off the hook. What do you think here, Brittany?
Great news is that you can go ahead and look that up on YouTube. There's more episodes of that show. It's lovely.
Well, what's the deal here? I'm sorry. Riley seemed like a nice girl. What's the deal with all the guys that just, you go on a dating show? I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to judge a book by its cover. She seemed nice. I mean, why was she getting no love from anybody?
She doesn't fit the Mormon mold. I mean, she's giving neurodivergent vibes to me, and that you just don't fit the Mormon housewife, what we want molds. We don't want you to travel. We want you to stay home in the kitchen.
Yeah, so if you're traveling, that means that you need a lot of money. Is that what that's supposed to mean? I had no idea.
Honestly, it means you're wise with your money if you're able to travel.
Yeah, they're pretty cringed out there. I'm gonna have to check the show out because that did look like, honestly, a very entertaining trailer. To be honest with you, I'm gonna have to check out more of the show. I'm not typically a big dating show or a Mormon reality show, but I'm a little too old for that. But still, this looks pretty entertaining. I'm not gonna lie. You know, when it does come to women's equality in Utah, though, Utah is really bad on equality. In fact, a new survey here from Wallet Hub says that it is the absolute 50 out of 50, the absolute worst state for women's equality. And maybe that last clip proves why. You know, Brittany, why is it that Utah ranks so gosh darn last in women's equality anyway?
The whole, probably because of the whole, what Mormons think about women. I mean, most of Utah is Mormon, supposedly. And, you know, there's a very big divide there.
Yeah, well, recently in the last year or so, only 42% of the state of Utah now identifies as a Latter-day Saint, but still has a great influence. And because the church has been so regressive on women's rights for a long time, the state of Utah is still really low on women's equality. We saw that in the Deseret News. We saw that in Utah State University. Its leadership project says it is absolutely last place here. And this is from the article itself here, says that this is a critical dilemma in Utah that is often the elephant in the room. Scores of some of these metrics may directly or indirectly link to the fact that more than 60% of Utah residents are members of the LDS faith. Clearly, the division of effort and focus on the family continues to influence the decisions of many Utah residents and most likely impacts how Utah scores on several of the metrics measured in Wallet Hub survey. And this is my question here, is that if the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is such a good organization for women, why wouldn't it rub off on the rest of Utah? And Utah should be first in equality. I thought the church said, you know, I keep hearing the messaging that all children of God are created equal and everyone has equal standing, but why are women so low then?
Because it's not true. They're lying.
Yeah, that's pretty cray. Now, this is the craziest clip that I got that's associated with this because it is that time, Labor Day weekend, women's equality here. Those folks over there at Ward Radio, Cardin Ellis says that he This is surprising to me because I saw this thumbnail here, especially with the fact that the women's equality is so low in the state of Utah and in Mormonism in general. Cardinal Ellis over there at Word Radio says that he's fighting for women's equality every day in Southern California. I couldn't believe this. I want to see what Cardinal Ellis is doing to try to make things right with how Mormonism treats women. Let's see what they've got going.
Oh, this is just too good. What is the story
I
behind
think
this?
that's the wrong clip.
Oh, no.
For our friend, and we came back, and it was funny.
Oh.
Yeah, I do think that is the wrong clip. It was put into his story. I don't have that. Sorry, I don't have that right clip queued up there, folks. I do apologize for that. Unfortunately, I'm not going to bring that to you. But the unfortunately, I'll have to summarize it for you, which is definitely not what I was going for. What he's saying is that he was fighting feminism to make women have equality because he thinks that feminism is the reason that women don't have equality. That's the bottom line of that. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. He doesn't have a whole lot. It's a good thing we didn't watch it, honestly.
Sorry, I didn't have that clip. It didn't pull up for you. I do apologize for that with a live show. That's unfortunate. Harold does like Laugh Out Loud, Brittany. Brittany, I do appreciate that. A couple last articles. We got to get you out of here. It's over an hour here. The Gaddy case here is dead here. The 10th Circuit rules for Latter-day Saints in a tithing fraud case. 3-judge panel finds that the First Amendment protects the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from claims made by former members over tithing misuse. The church champions this as a great day for religious liberty in America. Latter-day Saints win yet another tithing case. The church is batting virtually 1,000. The Huntsman lawsuit, it won. The Gaddy lawsuit, it won. The Shelby lawsuits in Salt Lake City have also won. The church is doing very well with these tithing lawsuits. And just to quickly summarize the Gaddy case, Gaddy brought up the fact that the church had misled them on its church history and a number of other items and said that the church it was a deliberate fraud. They've lost again. Is this a surprise to you that the church has won yet another tithing lawsuit, Brittany?
No, they have wonderful lawyers, great lawyers.
They certainly do here. And like we see here, another fraud lawsuit over tithing has been turned away by the courts. I can't see. This is what the comment sections say. They can't open up Pandora's box. Then all churches would have problems. And that's the problem here. Yeah. Another defeat for those wanting to get their tithing back. It is a grim thing to get their tithing back. Couple new temples have broken ground here. Let's just play this, get this going here. Couple temples.
And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has broken a very rare milestone, breaking ground for 3 new temples on the same day. Yesterday, ceremonies were held in Florida, Washington State, and the Republic of the Congo. We're told this is only the 5th time this has happened in church history. There are already 4 temples in Florida and 5 in Washington, and this is the very first temple that will be built in the Congo.
Yeah, the church is breaking a lot of ground on a lot of temples. The question, though, Brittany, is how come the members are not exactly tracking with the groundbreakings of these temples? They just seem to be getting out ahead of the membership.
To me, I feel like the whole temple thing must be some sort of real estate scam. I don't know what they're doing there. They're spending at least $30 million per temple to build these. And who's going?
That's a very good question. 30 million is a pretty safe estimate for sure. And this is what Rebecca Biblioteca pointed out. As she said earlier in Wellington, New Zealand, the worship service, a stake conference where they were going to announce the changes, I predicted it was combining wards and stakes. And I found this interesting because they had just had groundbreaking for a new temple in Wellington 3 weeks ago. So there's a new temple in Wellington, New Zealand. And look what happened with the surrounding area. The meeting was held this morning and just learned that 2 stakes had become 1. 11 wards became 6, and 8 meeting houses have been reduced to 4. 4 meeting houses will be sold, and the new temple in Wellington is on schedule. What do you make of that? The fact that around this new temple, 2 stakes down to 1, is 50% of the membership is gone, and they're selling everything off, and yet they built a new temple. I mean, how does that make any sense?
I don't know, but I think they're just really beautiful, expensive billboards.
Yeah, and what are you trying to show with this meme here, Brittany?
Oh, I just think it's ridiculous that every time they could just be building shelters for the poor, helping people, doing what Jesus taught, but instead they're constantly building temples, which are for the dead.
Yeah, and this is what Scab said. We all know that the old folk run those Masonic buildings, and a big portion of the population is boomers. And this is not the only temple that's causing a lot of consternation out there. Construction on the Heber Valley Temple begins, and they will need to pump out, get this, 1 million gallons of water a day for weeks on the site to just dewater 1 million gallons. And they think that this would be, I think this would be a big concern. There's a lot of litigation, but yes, the church announced a very, very poor spot for this temple that needs 1 million gallons pumped out per day. And some of that water is going to be put into rivers and then evaporated and then just kind of wasted. And then even after this initial push of 1 million gallons per day, it's going to need hundreds of thousands per day after that. This is going to be an ongoing project. This is like one of the most ill-advised temples that I have come across. Wellington, the membership is closing. Heber Valley, it's in a really bad spot. There's just membership is dying, and yet these temples keep going up. It make sense for me, Brittany.
I don't even know why they need this temple. I Googled how close all the temples are near it, and you got like 5 other temples within an hour. And yet we're going to be great stewards of the earth and pump all this water. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It literally doesn't make sense.
Definitely doesn't make any sense. A couple other things that are in the news. The LDS Church will pull down a Salt Lake City hotel to put up a parking lot. The Salt Lake Plaza's hotel site will be used as a parking lot during the Salt Lake Temple's 2027 open house. But here is the wrinkle in this. The city council in Salt Lake City is saying that the demolition of this plaza building, which will be just a temporary demolition because the new temple open house for the Salt Lake Temple is going to be absolutely massive. They're saying that it could violate codes and might be against the law. Is that surprising to you?
No. They break the law all the time.
Right.
As long as their lawyers take care of it later, it's fine.
Yeah, so this is the church-owned property reserve. So technically, right, Brittany, the church doesn't own it. It's a property reserve, right? You know, no, that's bull. That's absolutely bullpucky. What does this meme show?
Oh, you got that boyfriend meme. He's looking over his shoulder at the temple parking lot when he could be paying attention to affordable housing, homeless shelter, stuff like that.
Yeah, that is good. I do like the boyfriend in that. He's a good boyfriend. I do like that. Last couple articles, I keep saying that. Boy, this program is going a little bit long. David Archuleta and his mom are in the news once again here, sharing his coming out story. National headlines. It's a 2-minute interview. Let's see what they've got going on.
How has the journey been for both of you, especially since you came out in the public eye and kind of navigating that here in Utah with the family?
We were very, very devout Mormons, very staunch Mormon. And so I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I'm going to just, I want to let you know, I'm going to start dating guys in case it starts getting out there because I downloaded the apps and I wanted you to hear from me rather than through a news source. And my mom's like, honey, I love you, but I love God more. And I can't accept this about you. And I testify to you, God's plan for you is to marry a woman and to have children and be married in the temple. And I was like, Mom, I get it because I believe all of what you're saying up until a week ago. I don't need you to accept what I'm doing because I know it goes against your beliefs. But I just want you to respect that I'm making the best decision for me right now.
And then what happened? I mean, because you're sitting here at the Human Rights Campaign's Gay Gala in Utah, so clearly something happened in between.
David did an article in People magazine that it hit my heart, the core of my heart, and I started bawling and I was crying I was 3 nights reading that, and it hit me because here's my child telling me that he wanted to kill himself, that he didn't want to exist. And I'm thinking something hit me with that interview, and it's just I told my husband I just can't do this anymore. One day I was in church and I looked up and I looked around. I didn't see any queer people. I didn't see any colorful people. And I thought, God is not here. God is not here because God loves everyone.
Yes.
How can we be so exclusive?
Reactions to this brief interview here, Brittany?
As a queer person myself, I was thrilled when David came out. I'm thrilled even more that he's being loved by his family. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, it's very good news. Very good news. Now, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, season 3 here. Release date is on Hulu here. It's coming out here. Grab your swig drink. Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, season 3 premieres November 13th. That's not that far away. Are you a big Secret Lives of Mormon Wives fan, Brittany?
It's a guilty pleasure. I kind of have a hate-love relationship with it.
I think that's a pretty good way of looking at it. You can find a number of videos about my thoughts about these scandalous gals of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives right here on this channel. Probably my favorite is I watched 10 hours of Taylor Frankie Paul so that you don't have to. That's my favorite if you want to get my thoughts there. Here is here is some thoughts here on the filming of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And this is our last video.
Everybody wake up, there have been cameras spotted around Mom Talk. Mom Talk and friends, as well as Dad Talk, are currently at Stagecoach Weekend staying in this mansion sponsored by Heritage. Does not look like Whitney or Demi are there. Now in the background IG stories of some of Mom Talk, there seems to be a production crew in the background. Like this IG video that Jesse posted of Dakota popping a bottle of Prosecco, you can see a camera and production crew. Now, season 2 of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives has wrapped up filming, so why would there be a production crew? I don't know, maybe for a season 3? Also, Dakota is still sober. He did clarify in a following story that he just wanted to pop the bottle because he's never done that before. Also, what I noticed in one of Taylor Frankie Paul's old IG posts where she was filming Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, she has a picture with a production crew, but take a look at this guy here. I don't know if it's just me, but does he not look like the guy behind the camera in the story with Dakota popping the Prosecco bottle? Also, Taylor shared the story of Zach and Jen talking by a pool with a camera crew behind them. Even though we haven't seen Jen or Zach in any of the pictures or videos from Stagecoach, it is Jen because Heritage posted her at the house. Taylor then shared this video of a charcuterie board, and you can see a camera in the back.
Well, it's pretty hard for me to keep up with all of these folks here. They are definitely pretty handsome, though. I can say that much for sure. What do you think?
Everybody wake up.
Oh, they're a handful, aren't they?
Definitely a handful, to be sure. And that does take us to our final segment, which is the Mormon News Roundup Joke of the Week. And I believe that you have that for us.
I do. Hopefully I found one you haven't heard before, but I'm not sure about that. All right. What's the difference between prison and the MTC?
Not much to my mind.
Prisoners get visitors.
That's for sure. That's 100% accurate. I do have a video about my MTC experience here on this channel, and that's the difference here. And this, I'll just add to that. And in jail, you get a phone call. You don't get visitors in jail because it's temporary, but you get phone calls when you're in jail. You don't get phone calls, at least when I was at the MTC. Couldn't send a phone call, couldn't have an email, couldn't have a visitor. Very, very prison-like conditions. That joke hits very close to home. Brittany, it has been a pleasure ruminating with you on the great and spacious Beehive. Thanks so much for dropping by.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, for all of you out there in Mormon News Roundup land, can you hit the like, hit the subscription, turn on notifications, rate us with a 5-star? I would greatly appreciate that. And always think celestial. And remember,
no unhallowed hand can stop the Mormon News Roundup from progressing.